Just saying.
Matthew,
I'm gonna send her a quick text.
how you doing?
All right, people.
How's it going?
Do I have to make the phone quiet? All right, we're about to start, everybody.
Has enrichment. She's coming from enrichment.
Okay.
So if parents didn't pick up their kids on time, then that's where she is.
So
Yep, Heather's on.
we are gonna have a smaller crew today. We're gonna be missing two.
That's
One
okay.
sick, one a flat tire. Yeah, but Ellen will probably should be here just a little bit late.
Yes, who said that? Yes.
Lee?
Yes, that's why you're in that chair. Thank you.
And we have one on Zoom, just so you guys know.
Right.
Heather's on Zoom.
Hey Heather.
You're in my door, please. Thank you.
Hello. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Good afternoon and welcome to the Douglas School Committee meeting, the negotiation subcommittee meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 4 o'clock, please. Roll call vote.
Heather Moran, present.
Beth Bergstrom present. And we'll turn it over to you guys.
For those of you watching from home and in the audience, Heather is joining us remote. You can see her over there on the screen and hear her from the microphone in the middle of the room.
On a
So if the voice,
purifier?
if you hear the voice from a different angle than the face, you know why.
Thank
All
you.
right.
And James, you said you guys are down a person?
Uh,
One?
two.
Two.
Two,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. An illness and a car issue. So, this is gonna be us for today.
Okay.
Yeah. Great, so I think where we left off last time, we had sent you guys a bunch of counters.
Sorry, go ahead. Shoot. Courtney was just asking about a sign-in sheet. Have we been doing one?
We did one for the first meeting. We haven't
Yeah,
done
we
one
haven't done it
since.
since then. We can always just look on the video to see who's here, too.
That's true.
Pretty easy.
You can always go back.
Yep. No, I was just gonna say, we shared a few proposals. We had some discussion last time. I think we're expecting responses from you to start for today.
Yep, so we have a number of responses for you. You want to start with the bigger one?
Yeah.
We are missing Stephanie and
April.
Yep.
I'm going to do 2 copies for that one.
Thank you. So kind. Appreciated.
We had provided some pretty comprehensive responses last time, including some counters, which I'll note, but I'll go through additional counters that we have and any kind of updated responses that we have. So the first is on the staff safety and health proposal, or what I'll call kind of proposals from DESPA. We've obviously had a whole bunch of conversation about this over the course of our sessions together. We've been, pretty clear, I think, in acknowledging that we understand this is a big issue for you and trying to talk about it and come up with ways that we can kind of fit into potentially some CBA language that fits what you guys are looking for, while at the same time, as we have noted kind of throughout, identifying language that we don't think is suitable for the contract or otherwise something that falls in the bucket of being an operational or management right. You'll see a counter basically to a whole host of the types of proposals that you had on staff and safety, which aligns with what our discussion has been, right? So our discussion has been talking about in terms of the kind of identified need here, which is having some discussion about what's going on and having some response mechanism. We are proposing that, and you'll see we have this later in our proposals as well, that once we have the identification of building representatives furnished, or will be furnished to the employer immediately after their designation, and the association will notify the employer of any changes, and then investigations of grievance shall occur outside the school day hours. That's sort of part one. Part two, kind of more what I'm speaking to, is that a former structure will be mutually agreed upon at the start of each school year between the building reps and the building principal for regularly scheduled meetings. If necessary, a monthly meeting will be scheduled between the leadership of DESPA and the superintendent. So, all of the things that we have talked about, and I think DESPA has been, time and again, indicating that there are various issues with respect to various buildings, right? They're building-based issues. So the best way to solve that is to have building-based discussions. And that's what we're proposing, is that we have those discussions between staff and administration so that any of the building-based issues can be brought to their attention and addressed, which we think would really address the issues that kind of on a more granular level have been brought to our attention through the negotiations.
So this is, in lieu of the proposal we made that, there will always be these meetings, these sort of labor management meetings. This just kind of ties it into the building rep language and just says that once that's determined, each building will sort of figure out how to do that.
Yep. And so that is responsive to a couple of points that have come out of our discussion, right? One is that it's not always going to be the case on any given month in any given building that there's going to be the same issues in any other building. And it's also going to be the case, as we all know, that there are going to be months or however much, whatever the period of time is, that there may not be any kind of issues that need to come up. So, we need to have those meetings, as need be, right? So, that's something that we've definitely spoken about. And I forgot the other point that I wanted to make on that, so I'll come back to it when it comes back into my head. So let me go to other parts of responses that we have, because there's a couple of others that I just wanted to highlight that are part of the staff and safety. So if you go to page 2, we had provided a counter. You'll see it in the middle of the page. Should an injured staff member require immediate medical attention as a result of being injured at work? I'm sorry, this is a counter that we're offering. We had some discussion about the form. We have a counter for you. Should an injured staff member require immediate medical attention as a result of being injured at work beyond what is available by the school nurse, they shall be given immediate release time without any reduction in their pay or their accrued sick time for that day. You'll see that we've just highlighted, and I don't think it's worth sort of noting for our discussion right now, where we're just maintaining our position. But I think the larger takeaway, hopefully, is that the initial proposal that we made is what we'd really like you to consider in terms of solving a lot of the problems that you've raised in the health and safety sort of section of your proposals.
So are you, just to confirm, you're still rejecting sort of this language that staff are responsible for reporting injuries and that the district will keep a log of it? Is that correct?
Well, yes, that proposed language, right? We are
Yeah.
rejecting putting that into the contract, yes.
Okay, so you're countering this this sort of day of medical leave, but rejecting actually having that in the contract that people need to report injuries and the district will track it, just to be clear.
Yeah, I guess if you're taking it as we're rejecting the proposed language in your proposals, the specific language, yes,
Right.
we are rejecting it, but when we're saying,
Right.
let's have these meetings as needed to
And
talk about
staff-
these issues.
And whenever there's an injury, staff have to fill out the forms for our insurance company. It's already a practice.
Okay. So I'm trying to be very clear here, because in this document, we've got a lot of color-coded and dated stuff, and I'm just trying to be very clear that
Yeah.
we know which ones are the counters for today, as
Yeah,
opposed to the rejections.
No,
from
and I
another
appreciate that,
day.
because there's a couple of typos that I'm going to try to just identify. There's date typos, so
Okay.
I'll
So
identify
on
that.
page 1, those first 2 red paragraphs are the district's counter for
Correct.
today.
Yep,
And then on page 2, the only counter is that one red paragraph about should an injured staff member require. Okay.
yep, correct.
And then you're saying that, so we have asked before, basically what is the official policy on injury reports? And I hear you saying that the policy is the need to fill out the insurance sort of reporting form, correct?
I have a question.
Well, let me answer James. So if someone, and Courtney can clarify, if someone is injured, hurt, or potentially injured at work, they need to fill out a form for Maya, our insurance company, whether that is they were walking down the hall and tripped, they bumped into something, regardless of what it is. If someone is injured at work, they need to fill out that form. So that is our official track. Courtney has and keeps a copy of that stuff. Per our discussions going back to our original, it was a great point that you brought up, whatever it was, a month or two ago. There was a concern that if there was ever an incident regarding a student issue or something that needed further discussion, because there's a very, very small portion of that form that highlights what the incident was. We put together that incident form where the people involved in that, working with that student or that situation, would come together and meet with administration to go over what were the antecedent behaviors, what actually happened, was a restraint put in place, did we need a restraint, was a safety plan followed, was a safety plan not followed. So we added that as an extra layer to things as a result of our discussions going back to negotiation, which we had those conversations happening informally, but I think they were happening, from what we heard, informally and not consistently. And we heard what you were saying, and we tried to formalize the process and make it consistent. So I want to answer James's question, to your question, Jonna.
So my question is, the form that's filled out that is for the insurance company, is that form filled out, when is that form filled out? Like, for instance, I know an ABA was kicked last week.
They should be filling out the form.
Yeah, immediately, because we have to do it within 48 hours.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, no, everybody, I send out stuff district-wide, it happens regularly.
When was the last
Yeah.
time that reminder went out to staff?
Oh, I'd have to look.
Okay, if you could,
I mean, I do
us
get
that.
them regularly, the nurses know it, the principals know it, staff have been doing it.
But not all staff. no.
Was not aware of that process at all, or that step.
And that's part of why we put this here, because as we've
Exactly.
been asking staff, we've gotten
Well, again, I
people-
mean, if someone gets
Let me,
in-
can I finish what I was saying?
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
We've gotten people saying, oh, I just tell my supervisor, I only tell my supervisor if I'm bleeding. You know, I think maybe one person mentioned the like insurance form specifically, but if that's regular practice, it has not been like widely understood.
Okay, maybe we shouldn't call it an insurance form, okay? Because that's, no,
No,
it's just because I think it was being taken a different way. So any supervisor knows about it, the nurses have it. So if anything happens, they go to the nurse, everybody has that form, they know it has to be done, it gets done on a regular basis, it has to be filed within 48 hours.
I mean, we have three of our principals
That's-
here.
yeah.
One's out on medical.
Happens all the time,
Cindy, if a
everybody
staff
knows
member
about it.
reports
Yeah.
to you that they're injured, you have them fill out
Yeah.
that form?
Absolutely.
Ken,
Everybody
if a
does.
staff member is injured, you have them fill out the form?
Yep.
Rob, do you have them fill out the form?
Secretaries know about it, nurses have
middle
it,
school
they have to
principals out
sign off
today.
on it, principals sign off on it, it comes to me, it gets filed within 48 hours.
Now,
Yeah.
in full disclosure, there are a lot of things that we send out, I'm guilty of it too, and a lot of that stuff goes out at the beginning of the year, and we know what the beginning of the year looks like with emails, paperwork, and forms.
But it happens regularly
You
with
have-
teachers,
regularly, yeah.
staff, all the time,
So,
regularly, yeah.
so to go back to my original question about the form, I don't know about the form. I know there is a form if you trip and fall and get injured or something like
That's the
that.
same form,
Okay.
yeah. That's the same
So I'm
form
aware
we're
of that.
talking about,
Now, I know for sure that an ABA was kicked the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And she told her teacher
Mm-hmm.
that she works under. I'm pretty sure that no form was filled out.
Well, I don't.
Why wouldn't it be filled out? Because maybe.
Well, I don't know, because I wouldn't know about, I don't know the name of who you're talking about. Maybe there was a form completed, but teachers know about it, nurses know, supervisors, principals know about it. Because remember, it's not it's an incident form. It's been done for years. I mean, really, everybody knows about
Well,
it.
I mean, I can say that
You
the
know,
teacher's
yeah.
brand new, so maybe she isn't aware of the process either.
It's also really hard to answer
Yeah.
that question in a vacuum, right? Because
Right.
none of us know what the circumstances of
Or
the
even who that
actual,
person
of the
is.
actual occurrence
Yeah.
was, right?
Right,
I-
or the
I-
person.
I was driving yesterday, I got rear-ended, and I got out of the car, and I questioned the person that hit me, what happened? I didn't like the response. But I looked at the bumper, and she made the point, there's no damage, and I said, you're right, there's no damage, and she said, this is why There are bumpers, which I also didn't like, but I didn't take her information because there was no damage. And
Bad
there
news.
was going to be no reason to report it, right? So, yeah, I was mad. I still am mad. But, you know, it's not the kind of incident necessarily that you have to report. And that happens, right? That there are things that
Right.
happen where I just don't think it rises to the level of needing to report.
Okay.
And I'm wondering where it is.
And that's where I think our issue is it doesn't rise to the level of needing to report it.
Any incident should be reported,
Yeah.
and the form needs to be filled out.
And that would be
Courtney
the
makes-
supervisor. I mean, you know, anything that should be reported to the supervisor.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will confirm on that.
So,
You could send a confirmatory.
And we can send out a confirming email for people, but again, we see it happening all the time, James, you represent many districts.
Yeah.
We can push out a lot of information, whether people read it or remember it 6 months later after it's sent out, that's something that we can't control. And even if it's codified in a contract, they may not remember 2.5 years from now, if it happens, that it's there, but we send out multiple emails over the course of the year. Principals are aware of it, as are our nurses, that if someone says they got hurt at work, they need to fill out that form.
And they also need to go, they know, go to the nurse too as well, so.
Can I ask a clarifying question? When we're saying supervisor, when we say supervisor, do we mean the teacher or do we mean the admin?
It's always admin.
Because to
Always
me,
admin.
I would think that would be like the supervising, so the admin.
Yep, of course,
Should
yeah.
be reported
Yeah.
to the admin.
Yep, yep.
yeah,
People
so
generally do, yep.
And we can send out a clarifying email again.
please do. Please let us know when the last time this reminder went out was. And I won't try to dig through my notes further. But like the specifics of this, you know, every injury should fill out this form are appreciated. They're also different from the first time we brought this up when we were asking about injuries and how people would know and there wasn't a clear answer. So let's get clarification on that. Let's put this out. That's fine. I won't try to dig through my notes from 2 months ago right now. But from the staff perspective, it has not just been a given that any injury, they fill out the form provided by Maya.
But it's something that's easily solved through, you know, an email can go out to remind people, so.
Yep, yeah, and that's a
Easy fix.
great start. Good to know that Courtney keeps those records. That is appreciated.
Okay, so I'm going to continue on. So on the bottom of page 3 is another formal counter in response to another sort of piece of conversation that we had about the reimbursement for property damage. So the counter is the committee will reimburse a DESPA staff member for the fair market cost to replace or repair any clothing or other personal property damaged or destroyed in the course of their scheduled workday on district property as a result of an unintended physical act from a student. Members must have pre-approval on a fair market value of the item prior to being reimbursed, and the superintendent's decision on fair market value is final. So we had already had discussion about this, I'm sure you guys remember it, so that's our counter on that piece. The next one.
So then on page 3 again, that's the only official counter, that one on the bottom, the rest is
Correct.
historical.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay.
We have an additional counter on the PPE issue on page 6. So we had some discussion about the provision of PPE, how that would work. I think you guys had provided some borrowed language from OSHA. We're trying to try to make this a little bit more sort of focused in terms of the language. So our counter is the district will provide in each building appropriate personal protective equipment to staff. Should specific PPE be required, members of DESPA will submit a request in writing to the Director of Special Education and Student Support Services. If such PPE is provided to staff, they must wear the PPE while working with students. Let me see. Do you have a
So this counter is essentially just affirming your legal obligation to provide personal protective equipment, and then just noting that if someone wants something additional, they can request it in writing, and they have to wear it when they're working with kids.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, the PPE needs to be given to the staff in order for them to use it, too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Wait, John, I don't understand. Is there a,
Well, I heard that there's some PPE sitting in an office somewhere and it hasn't made its way to the staff.
oh, if the staff asks, and I don't think that's,
That's what I told them to do.
yeah. Okay, so top of page 7, we have a little sort of clarification here. So there was a proposal, regular hours for unit staff are 7 hours per day, inclusive of a paid 30-minute lunch period. That, we think that should mean regular hours for a full-time, full school staff member are 7 hours per day, inclusive
Yes.
of a paid 30-minute lunch, right?
Full school day.
Yes.
Full school, sorry, that's what I meant to say, yeah, full
Yep.
school day.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, James, okay, thank you.
Yeah, so and again, this proposal, the intent is not to modify the current hours of full-time, full-day staff. It's just to put it simply, easily in the contract where it is. So I think,
We have
Yeah.
.5s and .6s, we just wanted.
That's
Yeah.
why we wanted the
Yeah.
language to be a little more exact, just
Yeah.
to make sure that
yeah,
it's.
by regular, we mean
Yeah.
full-time,
Yep.
full school day.
Okay, right, thank you. Okay, as you'll see, we're otherwise holding in parts. We gave you that large counter on the sick bank that we're awaiting a response on. So the next particular counter is on page 11, in response to the time increments proposal that you had provided. You'll see on the top of page 11, it says DESPA 5824 counter. That should be 424. Just, no, didn't mean to, just a
Which one?
typo there. So our counter is that if a member of DESPA is
Page
directed,
11.
oh, it's page 11.
Yeah, top of page 11.
If a member of DESPA is directed by a member of administration to cover substitute for a teacher, and they cover for a minimum of 2 consecutive hours, they'll be compensated an additional $5 per hour. We're proposing 2 hours because we need the flexibility.
Nope.
But I understand your response, but that's the reason for the proposal, is for the need for flexibility on our end.
Nope.
What's the flexibility? Because it sounds like the flexibility is to change someone's job for 2 hours and then not pay them for the additional service that they're providing.
No, I mean, that's like the way you're characterizing it. The flexibility would be in terms of the school day, right? And being able to have the ability to choose the 2 hours and what would be happening within those 2 hours.
So so just to give you some precise examples, and again, these are just all hypotheticals, James. Paraprofessionals working with a teacher, teacher says, I have to run upstairs and make photocopies for a meeting, I'll be gone for a half hour. We need to have that flexibility to be able to do that. Teacher says, I got called upstairs because there's a student crisis, I'll be back in 15 minutes. We need that flexibility to be able to have people cover for one another. We fully understand the point that you made about the half-day and the full day, so we're trying to address that. And I understand your position, but this is our position. And we need the flexibility that if someone needs to run upstairs for a meeting for half hour, for an emergency or for whatever it is, to have that flexibility to be able to schedule a building. We understand the half-day, full-day piece, which is why we did this counter. Originally, you saw our counter was half-day, full-day, and we had that language. We heard what you said about the importance of the 1 hour and people doing an hour here, hour there, hour there. It was adding up to 4 hours, but because it wasn't consecutive, they weren't getting compensated for it. We're trying to find a way to address that to be fair, but also giving us the ability that we need to schedule a building, run a building, and make sure that things are covered. So that's where the 2 hours came from.
So I guess,
Yeah.
if someone on my team wants to answer this, I don't have an answer for it. If you just cover a teacher for half an hour while they're stepping out of the room.
We're not
Can
gonna-
you do your regular job and normally?
Yes, yes. But you can't do your regular job when you're being pulled to do a music class. And then, so you sub for the music class and, you are substituting. But yet then they'll say, okay, you substituted for that one, now you go, and now we're gonna put someone else in there and they can substitute. And then no one gets anything out of it except the town. And that's the problem, is that too many people are getting pulled, and then they're non-compliant because they're being pulled away from the kids to sub for the music or whatever, because we don't have a sub. And then their students are not do not have a para or an aide with them at that point. And then we don't reimburse the para, who now has to go back, has to catch up with the student, get back on the same schedule with the student, get caught up with where they left off or where they hadn't been supported. And then we'll put, say, another para in to cover, say, gym class. And then that para is going to do the exact same thing. And they're not going to be reimbursed for subbing. They're not going to be reimbursed for running a class, for the discipline, for managing the 20-some-odd students that are in the class. And that's why I said, no, with the half-day, it doesn't work. And the clarification, too, is nowhere in our old contract did it ever say consecutive hours. Consecutive wasn't even in our old contract. That wording was used a lot with our paras and ABAs. To me, I find that offensive. We don't make a livable wage, and then you're beating us up over $12.50.
The way this language is written, and the way it could be interpreted, which is why we tried to clarify it, we're more than happy to entertain a counter, James. And as we said, we highlighted this because we know it's important to you, and we understand the complexities of it, which is why we offered a counter. But the way the language is written at $3.75 per hour, per quarter hour, this could be implied, and we could be getting stuff of someone covering for a teacher for 15 minutes, for having to go make a phone call, having to run to the bathroom, having to...
None of,
But the way it's
I
written here...
understand. I understand.
That's why we proposed a counter,
Yeah.
and we're more than willing to entertain a counter to our counter to our counter. But that's how we interpreted it.
this has become a real bone of contention, because I feel like, and I know that most of them feel like it as well, most of our paras in ABA feel like it, we're being penny pinched over, we're not even talking $12.50 an hour here. We're talking $12.50 for the half a day that they covered. We're talking $12.50 for the day.
And if you remember, Jonna, we came out of the gate with our original proposal without being asked to increase the half-day and the full-day rate, because we recognized what was in the contract, and we were trying to do right by you. So we did that before we were even asked to increase that rate. Secondly, after you discussed and brought a lot of points to our discussion, we changed our position from half-day, full-day to this. So we understand your position, we're willing to entertain a counter, but this is where we stand right now with it. But to hear your point, we came out of the gate understanding full well and where what was happening, which is why we offered, I think we went from $12.50 to $20, and from $25 to $40, if I remember correctly, without being asked to do it, because we recognized it. And then after you spoke up and said, hey, here's what's happening, we offered this hourly thing as a counter.
So, were you intending to be regressive with this proposal?
I don't know if it's regressive.
You are offering less money than your previous proposal. Your last was for up to $40 for a full day. This would be $5 an hour for 7 hours, would be $35 for a full day. You took a step back for what the compensation would actually be for these individuals.
Or take a step forward, because if you only covered for 2 hours, you were getting nothing, and now you're getting, so I guess it depends how you interpret it.
I mean, if you cover for a day
If you
under
cover
this
full-
new language,
Yeah.
you make $5 less than under your previous proposal.
Happy to entertain a counter.
Well, I'm just saying this is not a valid proposal because it's offering less money. Like, we'll,
Offering, if you only covered 4 hours, you were getting 20.
and if you
Or
cover
if you
for
cover
a
5
day,
hours, yeah,
you get less.
okay, we'll take a look at it.
Appreciated.
Yeah, we didn't.
No, I appreciate you coming out and offering it right from the beginning. And then, like I said, it's definitely been a bone of contention with all the paras and the ABAs. I still don't think we're where we need to be, but I think that we can work with this and maybe come to a valid counter.
Yep.
Yeah, but, again, for the record, your last proposal was at $5.70 per hour. Our last proposal was at $15 per hour, and you've gone down to 5. So, we'll take it from the 5.7 and the rest of this. Well, we won't assume bad intent with this, but it is
Oh, we're dividing.
less money for a whole
Okay,
day.
you make a good point, Jake.
Yeah, for that
Yep,
one, yeah.
understood.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, let me keep going. I think the next one is page 14, which is that 15B. So if you remember, I mentioned one, when we're talking about the counter to the staff and, the health and safety rather, it's the same as a counter as 15B, it's the same language on the building
All right.
regs, right?
It's just the same one on the front, you just sort
Yeah,
of.
exactly.
Front
Yep,
loaded
yep,
as part of
yep,
it.
Exactly. So those two kind of just like dovetail with each other. And then we get to what were the newer proposals from you guys last time, so the 18 and 18. Anyway, 18, proposal 18. So we're rejecting the timing of the openings. We feel that's our decision to make. We've got a little bit of a typo there on B. It's really a counter that we have for you, so it's not a TA because there's some clarification here. So we would counter with, the district shall not fill any paraprofessional or ABA summer positions from outside of the unit prior to going through the list of strike out volunteer and add, oh, I can't read my writing.
Qualified staff. Current
qualified
Current
staff.
qualified staff, thank you.
Yeah.
Qualified staff, I had current, I couldn't read my writing, thank you. So current qualified staff in lieu of volunteer. That's our
Okay.
counter on B, and then C, we are rejecting the flat rate of $25 an hour as well.
So you want to continue giving people whatever their current hourly rate is?
Well, we're rejecting the proposal of $25 an hour.
Yeah.
As well as the proposal on the job stipends.
And so the rejection for A, so these are the proposals about the summer program. We had proposed ensuring that it was open between February and May to allow staff to be able to have enough time to apply, to get a response, a yes or a no, and plan their employment. And you'll notice that we have significantly less folks here today than we have in the past. People are trying to figure out their summer jobs. People are working their second or their seasonal jobs. Folks in this unit, almost all of them are either relying on a second and third job or an additional earner to make ends meet. So, can you, I suppose, talk a little bit about when the intent is to generally open up the summer program applications, and if there is a way that we can sort of like get that? Again, here I don't think we're looking to change practice so much as we're looking to give staff security in their summer employment.
So based upon IEP service and modification of schedules, we look to see if there's regression over breaks, vacations. Part of that vacation time is actually February break. So we track data over a course of summer break, the December break, and then February break. And the intent is to see if there is significant regression in recoupment concerns or if there's a rate of progress concerns. Tracking that data requires continued observations over the course of March and April. So what we look to do is, before April break, put the postings out there for what is needed, which was the case this year. Because at that point, we'll have a pretty good picture of what our summer services are required in the staffing requirements. I do have to put a little asterisk to that because part of this is sometimes things pop up towards the end of the year after an April break that we weren't necessarily privy to. And there could be additional positions that might be required.
Right.
Student might move into the districts, that sort of thing. And there is a significant amount of planning that goes into this, that the coordinators and myself are feedback from the staff, and there's a lot of coordination to that. So the plan on, the best case scenarios is before April break.
Okay. That is helpful, and we will likely work that into a counter of some sort. Again, really just looking to try to get people a clear understanding of when they can expect to both see the postings and then sort of apply so that they can figure out their own summer employment. Thank you for that.
Yeah, so we have a second handout that we just.
So can you talk about proposal 20 for a little bit? We talked about the Academic Development Center and the library para stipends last time. Essentially, those are both positions that do more than what a regular paraprofessional does. You've rejected that, and we've also heard that there's been discussions in the buildings about potentially modifying those positions for next year, though I don't know further than that. Obviously, like, changing people's jobs is something that we should be bargaining. I'd like some enlightenment about what's going on with those two.
I guess we can have some discussion on our end about that. I don't know that it's something we can respond to.
I've not
right
heard
now.
anything about
Yeah.
a change in job descriptions.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so you have a second document, hopefully now in front of you.
I take that back.
Oh.
They just, there's potential that there might be a shift in how one of these two positions, but that's just very preliminary in the discussions that we had as we're looking at different models we were able to add a fifth special to the elementary and the primary school. So how that rotation works could potentially change, because currently they're on 4-day rotation. So we might have to go to a 5-day rotation, or we might have to do some different things, but that's still in the way infancy phases. Mr. Haynes and Ms. Sosha have thrown out a bunch of different models of what it could look like now that we've added a fifth special. So it'd be premature to even comment on what that looks like.
So, again, these two positions deal with hundreds of students, and they have supervisory duties that are similar to teachers. They are not quite teacher level. Is that going to continue next year, or is that, because if that's the case, we need to talk about how to actually compensate these people. But if what these preliminary discussions you're having mean that there'll be a change in that, then we just need to talk about what those job changes are going to be. Maybe that's something you need to caucus about, but
We might have to caucus on that.
that, you know, your objection for 20 is heard, but we need a lot more information on that one.
Okay, so now let me get then to the second document, which is just something we wanted to just highlight in part with proposals that we have made. So you see the counter that I think I've already gone through. We've talked about at the bottom of page 2, so just identifying that. If you go to page 3, we're just including for the benefit of you all some insurance analysis, highlighting Douglas as compared to other Valley districts in terms of what the percentage payment is into health insurance, and the benefit that has as compared to other Valley districts. We also wanted to highlight, which Matt could speak to at some point if we need to get into that discussion, but we also wanted to highlight a little bit about kind of the nature of the salary proposal that we had initially made. So we don't have an update on our salary proposal tonight because on the table as it stands now, there are a whole number of things that DESPA is seeking in terms of compensation, and there's really, as I'm sure you've heard, the reality is there's one pot of money, right? So to give from one area means you have to take from another, because you can't do them necessarily all in the way that they are being proposed, because there wouldn't necessarily be enough money for that. So, as it stands now, there's proposals for bus monitors, for the subbing, for stipends, additional paid holidays, et cetera. So if you look at the Blackstone Valley rate analysis on page, I think it's 4, you can see in yellow what the current rate is in Douglas. And you can also see the initial offer that was made, which is at the bottom. It's the second row from the bottom in terms of the proposal that that the district had made, which is an attempt to bring Douglas, to the middle, competitive with those other districts within the valley, as you see in the table here. And we want to highlight that we have heard, because you guys have mentioned it, and understandably so, that obviously compensation is important in terms of where you are and where you'd like to be. Certainly recognize that. But we, at the same time, would like to sort of be forthright about the fact, and if you go to the next page, the district wage, first proposal, that out of the gates, the proposal that was made in recognition of that was that there would be an increase, an 11.46 increase in year one, a 3.5, and then a 3.4. I know I'm rounding, obviously. But that equates to an over 6% increase on average, right, over the course of those 3 years. That's a significant starting point to have come out and made as an initial proposal, in addition to the 3 holidays that the district put on the table without even having had a request for those, right? And that's an additional cost of $75,000 some odd dollars, right? So you've got an already significant proposal that the district put forward, in addition to the longevity, right, too. Right initially, in order to sort of show you guys that, we're taking this seriously. And we want to contrast that just with kind of the DESPA proposal in terms of, and the reason for this is sort of the financial reality, right? So if you look at the DESPA wage proposal on the next page, the percentage increases of that initial proposal in year one would have been 33.75%, then a 12.28%, then a 10.9%. So overall, a 56.93% increase to the cost of about $800,000. And then if you add in the holidays, of about $900,000. So that just gives a sense for folks, I think, in terms of in hard dollars, what the request, the initial proposal by DESPA was, where the district, came out with a significant proposal on, is that Thunder?
Thunder, yeah.
A significant proposal. So in terms of just thinking about a response because I think, James, you had, identified that that's something you'd like to continue talking about. Obviously, it's something we would like to continue talking about. But the reality is that when we're looking at COLA, we have to look at it in light of the other financial requests that you're making as well, because there's just a push and pull there, a natural push and pull. So certainly something that we can continue talking about, but to the extent that you're highlighting that something else is important to you in terms of a financial ask, then it would impact the COLA kind of analysis part of it. So that's just for sort of thinking about or kind of understanding the way that we're looking at it, we wanted to kind of provide that to you. So that's, oh yeah, sorry.
No, so I see where you're coming from with the different numbers and, what's been offered and the health insurance and the COLA and the percentage and all that. Can you explain to me why these rates that we, the paras and ABAs that take care of the children in our district, are less than what the town employees make hourly?
I can't necessarily give you an explanation as from X to Y. What I can say is, because I've heard this question in other districts as well, like a similar question, right? And the discussion tends to focus on, well, there are a couple of things. There are different jobs within the town, right?
Correct.
And each of those jobs, each of those positions has a different discussion underneath it in terms of what the historical salary rate has
Correct.
been that leads you to where they are now. There's sort of market forces, there's just the nature of the field that you're working in, the position within that field, et cetera, right?
Correct.
So to answer that question as to putting a para up against maybe some other town employee, it's a much more nuanced answer because of all of the variables that go into it that have led us to kind of where we are here rather than, hey, here's X number versus Y number.
So I took the pay scale, pay rate of a seasonal, part-time, specialty role, and they make consistently more.
Town employee?
Town. from the town meeting on Monday.
It's like election workers, temporary bus drivers, transfer station employee, library page. Great that all these folks make money, but they have a pay scale currently that goes higher than
Oh,
a
and
bunch
the-
of the desk-based ones.
Yes, yes.
And when you're,
You can start on a step one, MS1, and make more than the
What
starting
position?
pay. This is the miscellaneous seasonal.
so that's a
It's
library
page
page
12
or a
of the-
cable recording assistant, can
Yeah.
make anywhere from $15 to $19 an hour, which means that they're above paraprofessionals with degrees currently. And when you're talking about, well, I'll just say first off, it's quite disappointing to not have any sort of wage response, especially after town meeting, and we have all sort of the financial information out here. But our last proposal was an attempt to move away from talking about percentages, right? Because at town meeting last night, 2% cost of living went through for the majority of town employees, right? And a 2% for someone in the like middle managerial scale who's making $80,000, $85,000 a year, like a solid living wage, 2% for them is around the cost of 15% for one of the employees in this unit, right? So it's, if you wanted to reach, and again, I know you're not Worcester, this isn't Worcester, but Worcester's a very nice scenic drive from here. Worcester's starting salary for paraprofessionals is, I believe, $32,000 this year. Someone could choose to drive the extra 20 minutes a day to Worcester and make an immediate $12,000 or more salary increase.
James, it's my understanding, though, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the reason the rates increased so dramatically in Worcester is that they added half hour to the school day.
And if you're interested in talking about adding time for that,
I'm
sure,
not
but
interested.
that is not, it was not a flat time piece. Prior to their last agreement, they capped out, the top of their scale was approximately $30,000. They found that they couldn't hire or retain anyone for these positions unless they significantly increased it. And the Worcester one is a really impressive thing where they just flipped it. Worcester, because of the failings of the current government to adequately fund the Student Opportunity Act, is also now millions of dollars under budget for this year. So it's a double-edged sword there, right? But when you're talking about percentages here, a 50% increase in a wage for someone who's only making $20,000 a year is a $10,000 a year increase, right? And that's why we really wanted to get away from talking percentages and talking about how to get people to something closer to a livable wage in this area. And it's, again, just sort of tough to hear you also talk about the sort of outstanding other financial requests when the district has rejected the vast majority of them. And the main one that would actually add to individuals doing work in the schools, the subbing piece, because people are being pulled so far. Your proposal, besides being regressive, was also limited to people who do 2 consecutive hours, right? So I hear where you're coming from, and sure, when you look at the percent comparison, 18% versus 60%, glaring difference. But our first proposal was for actually close to a 100% increase in the rate of pay for this unit, and that still would only have gotten people to about $40,000 a year. And I just cannot hammer that home enough that when you're doubling $20,000 for a salary, it is not the same as doubling the salary of someone who makes $60K, $70K, $80K, $100K.
And something that I keep hearing, and that I heard Monday night as well at town meeting, is we need to increase our pay wages because we need to be competitive with other towns. We can't hire for this position because we're not competitive with other towns. Neither can we. People leave, they come, they go, or they get hired and they say, oh no, I'm not gonna work for that much money. We're trying to make sure that we have good staff in our school as well. And we're not doing that if we don't pay them.
If you look at our initial proposal from 2 weeks ago, comparative to what is happening in the valley, that puts us competitive with the Valley schools?
We'll have to review it.
You'll have, and I don't expect you to answer it right now, but by and large, if you look at our initial proposal, and again, I don't have FY '25 rates for those schools, but if you look at our initial proposal, it puts us competitive.
And that's why we talk in the COLA terms that we do, right? Because it's the market, right? And I understand what I think the point is that you're making, talking about the position and what you think the position should be paid. But that's different than what the market, in terms of for that position here versus other comparators, is paying for that position. It's two different ways of looking at it. And the reason that a district has to look at it through the COLA terms is because, one, it's looking at the comps and, where they are, vis-a-vis the other districts, et cetera. But two, what can they afford, right? Which is, of course, always the hard part of this, or the big part is because they have a budget. And they have to look at that budget and know that money has to be allocated to any number of things in addition to this.
And that doesn't, you don't have to think in terms of percentages. You can think in terms of dollars and turn that into percentages.
Right, but I'm just explaining why districts tend to talk on those terms. And I understand why you wouldn't want it to be on those terms, right? But for anyone, that is watching this discussion, right? I mean, that is the reason why districts tend to talk on COLA terms, because it's an apples to apples conversation that you can have with a unit like this or another unit, because you're talking about the market rate.
So is your intent to give us a wage counter at the next session, or are you explaining this because you feel that this is the end of your counters, or?
Well, I didn't mean to suggest that this would be the end. No.
Okay.
No, I think just because we had some discussion about it before, and I do remember you talking about talking about in kind of like the dollars part of it, so.
Yeah, and the district's last proposal, again, for a non-degree paraprofessional with more than 10 years in the district, still comes out to $25,000 per year for folks in that. Certainly better than the current 20 or 19 and change, but when we're looking at $40,000 a year being the minimum for a living wage for an individual, there's still a real big gap there. I'd also just like to hit on just really quickly before we caucus, unless there's more folks want to say about the wages.
I can't
You
right
don't
now.
want to say a lot about the wages. Yeah.
Question. James, did you price out what your proposal would have been? I know we talked last time, I believe, that you were going to price out what your proposal would have been at the 100% increase and what that would have cost.
No, I did not. It would have been double, essentially, where we're at right now. Yeah. Yep. And if the district has a budget that they feel that they're within, and you guys want to talk about where your budget is, and we can work within that, we can go ahead. I saw the overall school increase that passed, but how much of that you've allocated towards salary lines, I can't say. But with the safety proposals, one of the issues that we discussed early on was that if someone gets seriously injured in the course of this job, and they fill out a report and they have to go on a workers' compensation claim, when you're making, even if you're making up to $25,000 a year, only getting 50% of that or 60% of that while you're disabled doesn't cut it, doesn't pay the bills. And we've had this happen to a couple of members, I believe, and we were seeking two kind of big ways to solve that. One being a payment from the district to support someone in workers' compensation, which was rejected. And one being, with the sick bank, a infusion of days from the district, because so people have used up so many of their days right now. There's not really much to draw on to create a new sick bank. So, have you had further discussions of ways to sort of resolve this issue? Someone who's actively disabled on the job? Because even if we, and I think that we'll get eventually to an agreement on the sick bank, but a sick bank doesn't help someone if, you know, between the entire unit, we can only scrounge together 10 sick days. And that just doesn't seem to have been really considered in the rejections here.
I think for full disclosure, the town has a policy that if an employee has sick time, we allow them to use their sick time to be made whole. So,
Right.
so it's not 50% of their salary, it's 100% if they have sick time.
The issue is for people who don't have sick time.
So so then the answer to that is the sick bank, which we made a proposal and agreed to set up a sick bank. I think there are currently about 40 to 50 members of DESPA. And we can go back and check to see how many total days there are on the sick bank and whatever we decide to do it. But I find it hard to believe that with 40 members of DESPA, there are only 10 days floating out there of available sick time across the 40-person membership. But we can get you that number as to what's available for sick time.
Sure.
It'd be an interesting statistic and data point for us to look at, but I can say with a high degree of certainty, knowing that we've had some paras here for 10, 15, 20 years, that there's more than 10 floating out there.
Yep, and we certainly don't want the people who've been here, well,
I'm not saying that either. What I was saying is more than 10.
The district sick bank proposal included that individuals could not donate more than one day to begin, which would also mean that there would be at maximum 40. We know there's going to be less.
Provided, right.
So, I'm glad to hear you talking about it. Let's look at the sick bank, the sick day numbers. That's going to be one of the things that we have to discuss. But we don't have a solution for that issue yet that we've seen members have to deal with, of being out of days, being on workers' comp, and still being in really significant financial hardship.
And that's why we had the discussion about the sick bank. We're in agreement with that.
Okay. I don't have other questions. Do you guys?
No, I don't think so. I think,
Okay.
Do we need to look at dates? Last dates that we have in the books?
I think we have 2 more days scheduled.
I think we scheduled those last time, yeah.
We scheduled, in between, we scheduled March 20th, but we did not confirm the time.
May.
Sorry, May 20th? Yeah, go back in
Talk
time.
about regressive, James.
If I could turn back time, if I could find a way, I'd do it.
We're gonna quote Cher now?
It's a great song, though.
I'm all about sharing. I'm a professional sharer.
Share.
Thanks, guys. Anybody watching, you can book me for
Lost on
$4 an hour. So we've got Monday the 20th.
Yep.
What time will work for this committee? 4 o'clock again?
I think we said
I think we said 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
typically, yeah.
Great. So, and then it looks like we actually might have 3 further ones. So we have Monday the 20th.
Yep.
We have Tuesday, June 4th.
Yep.
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 I think we said I have it as 5.
We had that at 5
to
because
7.
someone had an
5 to
issue at
7.
5 to 7.
Yep.
Someone had an
Oh,
issue,
okay.
5
that's
to
right.
7.
Tuesday, June 7th.
Yep.
What was the other one?
And the other one is June 17th, but that one needs
Thank
to be
you.
changed because that is 8th grade promotion and dinner dance and all the,
Okay, so we take that one off.
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
June
Thank
17th.
you.
Welcome, Heather.
Where did that voice come from?
All right.
Is there any appetite to look at the week beyond June 17th?
We'll have to discuss that.
You can
but
discuss that, okay.
Probably not. I know people are shifting to summer, either vacation or summer employment, so we can discuss in caucus.
Yeah, we can talk about it then, yeah.
Okay.
Because then people will know more about what's going on.
All right, well, we'll caucus.
Text us.
Greg, I'll text you.
Sounds good. Yep,
Great.
thank you.
Okay.
I'll call you.
Not gonna take
Yeah,
it
yeah,
with you?
call.
I almost did. My remote learning board just came back.
Take it with you.
No, you don't need to take your computer in the bathroom.
Every day.
My feet hurt.
That's the hope.
I was thinking of that. And be like, give Chummy a gummy. I know, I was like, no, I was sitting here. One of them, thunder, I didn't even know. No, one of them is fine, the other one's like, has like, it's like seizures. Like, feels so bad. Awful.
It's gonna be raining. And at least the thunder stuff. The thunder, maybe the lightning stuff.
I can't text them and tell them I'm coming back.
Enjoy that weather. I almost feel like I should do something for Lauren right now. She's stuck in the corner. Nobody puts baby in the corner.
What did you do with this one? What about this one?
Me.
Is this one, can she hear me?
Probably still connected, yeah. Oh, did she get off the call? It's like, yeah. Are you stuck here?
You see how the camera's glitching? No.
Yeah.
No, not.
I can see the glitch.
I don't know what that's about.
Might be the weather. It might be the weather at this point. So. Oh.
now a Buffalo game.
That's great.
That rain was intense.
That was
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it was
Look at
nuts.
my living room ceiling.
I had a hard time hearing it.
It's gonna rain again. It was so nice when we came in.
Yeah.
My
was
kids
talking,
are
I was
like,
like,
Mom,
what's happening?
it's Mom.
What does that mean?
Okay, gotcha.
What?
Gotcha.
Chewy.
She said Chewbacca's in my bathtub, and I was like, it's a dog.
It's a dog.
It's a dog named
Chewy.
Chewbacca.
Chewy.
No, that's
Chewy's in the bathtub.
yes, probably. All
That
right.
was the dog smaller, or are we talking a large dog?
Golden retriever.
She's like 110 pounds.
So that's a true chew. It's
He's
not,
a-
you know.
He's a beast. Sweet beast, but he's a beast.
Curly hair. Well, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
Yeah.
We want pictures next time, okay?
Dog showing us. Okay. Do we have everybody?
Yeah, we're back on here.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. We don't have, full responses today, unsurprisingly, but we do have a couple sort of notes, and then we're planning to bring some more substantive responsive next time. I did just want to clarify first, just so we remember it, we did have additional discussion about the injury reporting, and sort of as we've shared before, it's certainly different at different schools. So if you can please make sure to send out that reminder to all staff that they need to fill out that Maya form, whatever the procedure is, like, please do so. And if you could share that sick day information that you mentioned, the current balance of sick days for staff in the unit, that'll be helpful with the sick bank. We also want to talk about, again, with the wages, we do appreciate that the district is offering the additional longevity and putting the idea of a super step and these 3 paid holidays. And we do think that these are all sort of parts towards a solution, right? But even with those benefits, the fact that staff who are doing a pretty difficult job for 7 hours a day, often more without pay on their own, volition, we still want people to be able to get better at that, get a better wage at that. So we'll take a look more at the comparisons that you brought up, but we do really look forward to a wage response from you all next session. The safety language will continue to be an issue. And, we have had reports, again, from the buildings of things getting better. And again, there's PPE that is available at least some of the time. It doesn't necessarily always fit, and we've encouraged staff members to be more vocal about whenever they need something else in there. And we appreciate that there is some counter here, but you still have really rejected the majority of the safety provisions that the units proposed. So,
As an aside, we think that the proposal that we have kind of answers a lot of that. I think it's also important to note that we have several provisions in place that I don't know if they're being fully utilized to ensure that staff are safe. For instance, we have a B cap and a D cap that's been in place for 3 years that has a lot of suggestions posted on the website for people to look at.
what is that acronym for?
BCAP stands for Building Curriculum Accommodation Plan and District Curriculum Accommodation Plan. Has everything in there from a variety of strategies to help teachers work with kids, whether it's under executive functioning, whether it's under behavior, whether it's under ADD, ADHD. It's a whole host of Tier 1 strategies for people to look at. It's on the website, it's been reviewed. That can address a lot of the issues. Secondly, we have a renewed commitment to MTSS. We're in year 2 of focusing on MTSS. We know the MTSS is the umbrella for looking at the academic, social, emotional, and behavioral needs of students. Whether you're looking at UDL, whether you're looking at tiered instruction, or whether you're looking at removing barriers. That's PD that we've put in place. We also, 3 years ago, revitalized and reshaped and reformed the way we have our SST meetings, our student study team meetings. They meet once a week, and that's a mechanism where we have our principals, our assistant principals, our deans, our school adjustment counselors, our school psychologists run them, and a team of people, they get together once a week to talk about at-risk students, where anyone can bring forth names, anyone can attend those meetings to talk about at-risk students and what can be done to help resolve them. Our BCBA meets once a month in consult with our sub-separate programs to ensure that people are being heard and things are being done. You know, if you look at what people on this side of the table have done over the past 3-4 years to help ensure staff safety and student safety, it's been tremendous. We made leaps and bounds from where we were a half dozen years ago. What we also have to remember and keep in mind is that we have 40 paraprofessionals who service over 300 students on a daily basis. We have kindergarten paras, remediation paras, Title I paras, inclusion paras, and our sub-separate paras. What we're talking about, the health and safety, and again, I'm the first one to say that health and safety is important. You saw at town meeting, I sent the email out that we work collaboratively and are grateful for the town. We're adding an additional school resource officer to the campus for safety, and we're also adding, with the help of the town through ARPA funds, a state-of-the-art security system. We've revamped and relooked at morning meeting. We've added SEL components to morning meetings at both the elementary, middle, and high school. What we're looking at for this population of students, we're looking at 5 or 6 kids is really what we're talking about. We're talking about 5 or 6 kids under the age of 10. We're talking about 5 or 6 kids under the age of 10 who have individual education plans. We're looking at these students with disabilities who don't have a way to communicate and struggle communicating. We all know that behavior is communication. Okay, we all know that there's an antecedent behavior that leads to this communication. Our job as professionals, our jobs as teachers, administrators, as applied behavior analysts, as paraprofessionals, is to look to see what we can do for these kiddos. These kiddos don't want these disabilities. They don't want to act the way they want to act, but they're trying to communicate with us why they're doing it. Should they be lashing out? Absolutely not. All right? But I'm sure if you ask them if they wanted this disability, if they want to behave this way, the answer is going to be no. And I understand the health and safety precautions that you're putting in place. We're trying to put students who are on individual education plans in a box, and we can't do that. What we've proposed with these SST meetings we have in place, what we've proposed with the incident form, allows us to do a deep dive into each specific student individually and look to see what the issue is, what they're trying to communicate, and how to solve the issue so that they're safe and can learn, and so that staff are safe and can learn. So we truly believe, and we've given this a lot of thought, we've had a lot of discussion on this side of the table, and we believe that having these meetings between building-based staff and administration, Dr. Rosenthal can come, our coordinators can come, to try to look at these individualized issues, help solve. I also think using SST, which is something we've had in place for 3 years. We've had paraprofessionals attend these meetings. We've had paraprofessionals refer students to this group, is something that's in place. So let's utilize what we have in place already before we add things. But let's also remember, we're talking about individual students with disabilities who don't want to act like this, and it's our responsibility to try to find out the why behind it. And we can't do one size fits all for individual students.
Nothing that you just said is particularly relevant to the proposals that we have put out. We've been talking about staff safety protocols for 4 months, and you have never prior in these meetings mentioned BCAP, DCAP, MTSS, SST. The addition of safety systems and a school resource officer, who I'm sure will be paid a fair living wage to support the staff does not have anything to do with ensuring that the 40-plus paraprofessionals that you mentioned have adequate sick time if they get injured when supporting a student.
But those are
When
different
you're
issues.
saying,
Those are different
when
issues,
you're,
James, those are different issues that you're
when
talking
you're,
about.
when you're saying that.
But James, you're talking about different issues. I understand that you feel the need
Let
to
me,
counter
let me,
what
please
Paul
let
just
me,
said,
please
but
let me
you're talking about
finish.
different issues.
Please let me
Well,
finish.
let's talk about the same issue.
Then why, respectfully, I would say that back to Paul,
But it was about health and safety.
as
That's
is
not what we're talking
what
about.
I'm saying. What are our health and safety proposals, Greg?
We all know that, James. You don't have to ask a rhetorical question.
They were clear reporting standards
But that's what we're talking about. How to report, how to have discussion.
that you projected.
And that's what.
They were that
That's
the
why Paul's
district-
noting what he noted, because there are ways to do that.
Can you let me finish?
But we're trying to have a discussion, right? We're trying to talk about why, how,
Sure.
what things are in place to already address these issues.
So please show me in your counters that solve these issues where any of these programs are mentioned. Because they're not in here at all. The only thing, no, please let me speak. The only things that you have agreed on regarding safety, staff who get injured can have sick time during that day, which is appreciated. That is great. That is a real benefit that will help people. Otherwise, you agreed for a structure of meetings, which should be happening anyway, and often is, and you rejected everything else. So we have not been coming from this, we are not attacking the district. We're not saying that the district isn't trying its best to support students. But this is a union, a staff union, trying to bargain a staff union contract so that when people get injured supporting those students, they have the support they need. And if you're making $20,000 a year, you have 10 sick days a year, you can't use partial sick days, there's disagreement about the personal time, they can't choose when to use small necessities leave act
These are all
on their
different
own or
issues, James. You're now
unpaid.
going into
No,
other
these are
issues.
all the same
Other
thing.
issues. No, you're
No, because
attempting
they
to
all
lump it all
snowball
together.
off of each other.
Yeah, but you can't say one thing relates to another, which leads to another, and it all comes back to health and safety.
How does the existence of an SST weekly meeting help a para who is injured and does not have enough sick days? And, you know, actually, the way you were talking about SST sounded interesting to me. I have not heard about them before. I don't doubt that they're happening. It hasn't been discussed here. You said that anyone can attend these meetings. Are paras given paid release time to attend these meetings?
During the school day.
So are paras given paid release time from their regular duty to attend these meetings and discuss?
We would never remove para pay for attending one of those meetings. I don't know if a para would go to those meetings, but if there's an issue, let's say in a middle school flex program, the middle school flex para or applied behavior analyst would work with the teacher and have the discussion, say, let's see if we bring this child forward to SST.
Have any of you been able to leave your regular duties to attend SST?
I have been asked to attend SST meetings,
No.
but I don't have any open blocks.
Okay.
I
Have
have
you?
students in front of me 7 periods.
Have any of you been able to leave your regular duties to attend an SST? No, 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 no. So you can't say that everyone involved can attend when people, you know, really can't.
If you don't bring a child's name forward, you can't attend a meeting.
So you're saying that, if I'm understanding correctly, if a para has a concern about a child and they let their administrator know, they can attend these SST
You may be able to
meetings?
attend a meeting,
May be able to attend.
may be able to attend.
Based on what?
based off of a para could have, again, it's all contextual and it's all individual, but let's take the situation with the flex center. You might have a para who has an issue with a student because something's going on, and the teacher might say, I'm going to attend the meeting and report back. They might say, hey, I think it's important for the teacher and the applied behavioral analyst to attend, but not the paraprofessional. It might be a situation where all three attend. So that would be a conversation that would need to
So
happen with.
what, again then,
So-
when you're bringing these things up, going to Greg's point, right, about safety,
Yep.
bringing up a meeting that only one of the paras in the room has ever been invited to, that none of the others have been able to make, that is supposed to be about student safety, while at the same time denying the proposals that we've made about incident reporting and about giving staff information about behavioral plans before they work with the student, does not help to solve the issue. And if SSTs are relevant and you would like to bring forth something about like actually letting paras attend it, and maybe we can in a counter, because that sounds really productive, that's useful. But just naming all of these things that don't actually support the issues we brought up is not helpful, and it obfuscates the
Well,
main issue
the
here.
issues that if you can solve the issue with a student by going to SST, by working with a student, many times the issues don't escalate. Is it going to solve the issue that if someone gets hurt? Absolutely not. But we have a lot of safety things in place. To answer your question that you asked me, and you didn't allow me to respond because you wanted to finish, but we also didn't mention all the curriculum we have in place. We didn't mention all of our curriculum with social emotional learning. We have a variety of things in place. It would be impossible for anyone here on this table to sit and list everything that we have at our disposal to talk about working with students with social emotional dysregulation. The list is just so expansive. If you look at that BCAP or that DCAP, which is published on the website, which was part of our professional development at the beginning of the year, and is reemphasized at staff meetings, which we allow anyone to attend. There are probably 500-600 recommendations on each of those forms. There is no way that we could highlight all 500-600.
And you don't need to, because we did not bring those up as issues. We brought up as issues the ability to access benefits and to ensure that there's adequate reporting of injuries and adequate oversight.
And we answered all those, we believe.
Great. These other pieces are parts of the puzzle. They are not, again, particularly relevant to this discussion unless you'd like to bring them into the para contract. And
But I think that's where there's the rub, James, right? Is the issue as you're identifying it is one that can only come into the para contract. And the issue at large, talking about student safety and how that connects to the paras, is a much more complex issue. And because it's so complex, there's all sorts of different angles from which that problem must be solved. And a number of them are what the superintendent just highlighted, and why all of those meetings and the administrator and the different staff talking about these issues is important to it, because it's not a one-size-fits-all, right? It is a complex situation that requires all sorts of eyes on it.
And if you're
It doesn't
leaving
mean that it
out
just
the
needs to be-
eyes of the staff that are working closest with the
At
students,
no point did I, at no point
that's
did
a
I say that.
problem.
At no point did I say that.
Where in Paul, look, we have this on tape, we'll go back. I would love to review the list of things and see how many times you mentioned direct para input, because that's what we're talking about. And one of the things we've got from the folks who are here today, and again, it's a small amount, people have other jobs, people have other obligations, is that they've been frustrated with this. That they are not asking for the district to prove that it's doing a good job for students with special needs, because you are. And the 40 people in this unit are the ones risking their physical well-being in times of severe duress with students to enforce that. We just want support from there. And I know that folks have said that they want to bring this out, and the folks who've been showing up as silent reps want to speak out more. I know that one of the things that the unit is planning on doing is showing up to school committee. I believe the next session is on the 15th to kind of share more stories from the field, as it were. And if there are folks who are listening to this and who have the tone struck in this, we encourage them to show up as well. But I believe, and call me crazy, but I don't think that agreeing to contract language that says we'll report and track injuries would negate any of the other incredible work that you mentioned. I think it would add to it. And that's why we keep reproposing what is really a very small request about tracking. That is just a stand-in for this sort of bigger conversation.
And just to not beat a dead horse, we believe that our counter, if we have these meetings building-based, where a member of DESPA says, as we prepare for these meetings, can you let us know how many incidents we had at the elementary school this week? We can bring that information to the meeting.
Will you provide any additional information besides the number of incidents? Because that was all you provided us previously, and that does not help support students or staff.
Can I just have a quick point of order? We are at 5:57.
Okay.
And I don't know all the specific rules, but I believe we have to stop at 6.
You get to make that decision as school committee member. Whenever you guys call for adjournment, we have to shut our yaps. So you have the full control there. My yap, everyone
I
else
think
is nice mouth.
we're probably just a couple of minutes away
Okay.
functionally.
I want to hear everybody. I value what you have to say. I just want to be mindful of especially our silent reps too, that might have these other obligations as well.
Very
I just want to be
appreciated.
respectful
Yeah,
of that.
you two get to set that
So,
decision.
so to answer that question, James, in terms of, if in those meetings, if a request of DESPA says, can we sit and meet with the principal for our monthly meetings? We'd love the director of special education to be present, because we've heard there's been 6 or 7 incidents that's happened in the building, and we want to talk about those 6 or 7. That's something that can happen in that meeting. And from there could be the direction to say, well, let's navigate this towards SST. Let's look at bringing the BCBA in for this situation. Let's look at bringing this situation, let's look at bringing the school psych in for this situation. Let's maybe look at talking to the director of special education to see if we need to bring out an outside evaluation. But at least now you have a team of people who are working collectively with the principal, the assistant principal, and everyone who knows the students at hand. Me providing a list to high school reps about what's going on in the primary without them knowing the students, the incidents, or the names.
No one's requesting that.
Well, if you provided a massive list, but that's why we did that request and saw it as a bucket proposal, where those conversations could happen more organically and authentically in those meetings.
And to move this along, I would just say, make counters. We have had, I don't know, 5 sessions now or something, where we have talked a lot about all of the issues that you brought forward. I don't think anyone can say that we haven't been thoughtful about the issues that you have raised and talked about them time and again. We haven't yet had a response to any of our proposals. Yet we've talked about your proposals every single session, and I don't think we've had yet a counter from you on any of your proposals. So we had offered the sick bank, or our proposals, but the proposals where we've given you, our responses, we're still looking for, for the health and safety, the sick bank, right? We gave you a proposal on that, we haven't had a response. So we're looking for you guys to also engage in the issues that we're raising.
Just to be clear, you gave us the sick bank last session. After 3 sessions of back and forth based on prior negotiations to this one, we'll respond next time. Regarding the additional vacation days, we do appreciate that. We will be responding it in our next full wage counter, but it is impossible to calculate the value of those days without another wage response from the district. Same issue with longevity.
You could tell
But for
us
the
how you
sick bank and others,
calculated
we'll
the
give you
wage.
one.
You could tell us how you calculate it.
Calculate the value of a vacation day?
Yeah,
It's the value of one per diem.
right. So why do you need that from us then?
Because if you're going to offer a lower wage, we might request additional vacation days. And if you offer a higher wage or agree to annualize wages, where we are still waiting on a response, because you had said you were going to be reaching out to the Attorney General's office, and we have not received a response from that, we can give you an answer there. But 3 vacation days, if a day is worth $100, is very different than 3 vacation days if a day is worth $300.
So will you have responses to our proposals next time?
Sure.
Well, on that note,
We need to pick another date. We had 2 dates, the 10th and the 13th of June, because we had to eliminate the 17th, and then the week after that is school vacation week. So in order to try to get one more in, I don't know, the 10th or the 13th, from 4 to 6 is available.
I might be able to do the 13th, but that's a maybe.
Okay. I can
Either one.
make either one work.
so let us know.
Okay, let's do the 13th in the calendar tentatively.
4 to 6?
Works for me, works for everybody else.
So 17th off, 13th tentatively on, right?
And I have one other thing that I hate to bring up, because I don't want to wish away the summer. We might want to look at September dates, if for whatever reason we can't resolve this over the next 2 or 3 meetings. So at least we block September off.
You'll have to
Or-
figure that out.
Or
Yeah.
summer dates, yeah.
Or summer dates if you're willing to.
We're not able to bargain over the summer.
All right. Anybody else? You
I'm good.
All right. I move to adjourn the Wednesday, May 8th, school committee subcommittee, school committee meeting at 6:02. I'll be looking for a roll call vote, please.
Heather Gordon, aye.
Beth Bergstrom, aye.
Good night, everyone, thank you.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
I thought this was my phone.
Night, Heather.
Any item that you can talk into.
Right?
My kids would think.
Yeah, I was gonna say, depending on the day, my daughter would.
Yeah, it's fun, my son doesn't get it when I do this for a phone, he does a like flat one.
How old is he?
7:30.
He is 6,
Aw.
so,
Are you kindergarten?
yep.
Nice.
Have a jolly day.
Yeah, we'll catch up.
All right, we'll talk quickly, and I'll send you